Hey everybody, this is Craig Garber. Welcome to Everyone Loves Guitar. We have a great blues artist with us today, another hometown boy of mine from Florida, with the one and only JP Soars. Got a really cool blues style, great sound, very unique, and great songwriter as well. A couple of quick announcements. First of all, I want to thank our mutual friend Eric Johansson for connecting us. Thanks, Eric. And make sure you go to everyonelovesguitar.com/subscribe and subscribe to the audio and the YouTube video of the show. Let me tell you about JP Soars. He was nominated for Blues Rock Artist of the Year in the 40th Annual Blues Music Awards last year, 2019, alongside heavyweights Billy Gibbons, Eric Gales, Kenny Wayne Shepherd, and Tinsley Ellis. In the decade since he burst on the national scene by winning first place in the Blues Foundation's 2009 International Blues Challenge in Memphis with his band the Red Hots. He also got the Albert King Award as the best guitarist. Arkansas native JP Soars has toured extensively throughout the United States, Canada, South America, and Europe, and he's on his way to Panama, I just found out. And he's released an impressive catalog of music. In addition to his work with the Red Hots, he's also been part of the regional all-star blues act Southern Hospitality, featuring another guy here out of Tampa, Damon Fowler, and 2019 Grammy nominee and Memphis keyboardist Victor Wainwright, plus Red Hots drummer Chris Pete and Wainwright's bassist Terrence Grayson. JP's released 6 albums of his own, and with the Red Hots, including 2018's album called Southbound I-95, which also won him a Blues Blast Award for Best Blues Rock Album. His newest release is really good. It's called Let Go of the Reins. It's got 8 originals that they wrote on the spot, plus 4 choice covers. The album debuted at number 7 on Billboard Blues chart of the top-selling blues albums in the country. This guy's a really great player, so come check his music out and let's pay attention. JP, thanks for your time, and I appreciate you coming on the show.
No, you're welcome. Thank you, Craig.
How'd you first get started in the music business, and what was your break? And also tell me, because you just mentioned it, you were originally in a metal band. How did you evolve over to the blues scene? Yeah. That's not real common.
No, well, I moved to Florida when I was 16 with my family and stuff, and I mean I've been into music since I was a little kid. My dad played guitar, and my uncle played bass, and my dad had friends that played. My dad didn't play professionally, just around the house, parties and stuff. I was always like just drawn to it, just the music. And when they would get together for these jams and stuff, I would associate that with good times in the household, peaceful times in the household. There was no arguing going on. People weren't fighting about money and this and that. Was having a good time. So I associated that with good times and happiness. So I was always drawn to the music. Anyway, moved to Florida in 1985 with my family. And, I was into stuff my folks were into, Beatles and, Bob Dylan and Neil Young, that sort of thing. Of course, I was also into, Black Sabbath and Ozzy Osbourne and heavy stuff like that as well. Hendrix, ZZ Top. And moved to Florida and heard Metallica for the first time. And it freaking blew my mind. I heard the Master of Puppets album and was just like blown away. I never heard anything like this before. This is like 1986, I believe it was. Yeah. So, I had friends, we had a little, buddies from high school played in a band and stuff. And then a couple of years later, I was at a music store. I put my name in a drawing, a raffle for, they were raffling off a guitar.
Where was
SG. This was in West Palm Beach, Florida.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that where you moved to from Arkansas?
Exactly. Yep. And it was quite the culture shock, moving from a little tiny town in the middle of nowhere with, nothing around but farms and, creeks and hills and the Ozarks. It was quite the culture shock to move down to Florida. So in 2018, I took a couple of lessons from this guy at a music store, and I was walking out from the lesson one day, and the guy says, lady at the counter, hey, did you register to, today's the last day for the drawing. We're auctioning off this guitar. Did you register for it? No, I didn't. Oh, sign it up. I signed up, put my name on a little raffle ticket, threw it in. And then about a week later, I come home from school, and my mom's super excited. She says, oh my God, you won this, this radio station called and you won this $1,200 guitar and 2 tickets to go see B.B. King and meet him backstage and have him sign the guitar. And it's like, oh, boy. I go, there's got to be some kind of catch. There's no, there's no possible way they're just going to give me this guitar. I called the music store. They said, yeah, come on down, show us your ID. We'll give you the guitar. Went down to the music store, showed the lady my ID. She goes in the back, brings out this beautiful freaking Gibson SG with the binding and gold hardware, just pearl white, beautiful thing. And I still couldn't believe it. There's got to be some catch here. Took the thing home, laid it out on my bed, and opened it up. And then that's when I finally realized, like, wow, this thing is actually mine. They gave me this thing. A few days later, included in that raffle was 2 tickets to go see B.B. King. So my dad and I went. I was 18 at the time. My dad and I go, and we get to sit front row center,
Wow.
and watch B.B. King, and it blew my mind. Just like when I heard Metallica for the first time, never heard nothing like it. I saw B.B. King, go, wow, it was jaw dropping. And then I got to go backstage after the show and sit down with him and meet him and talk to him. And he signed the guitar. And I remember him being like the most humble, just down to earth person. It's a living legend. And the way he spoke to me just made me feel comfortable, and just not like, it wasn't like he was up here and I was this guy he was talking. He had this knack for making you just feel at ease, and just super humble. But anyway, I left that show, and my dad was like, you need to learn to play that, that you need to learn to play the blues, man. And I knew from that moment, I said to myself, this is timeless music. This is something that I can be playing when I'm 60, 70, 80 years old, and I loved it, just the soulfulness of it and just the power of it.
That's amazing that you made that correlation at such a young age about the timelessness. When you're 18, you can't look more than a week ahead of, the day ahead, but that was pretty cool.
Yeah. And I think I could look around at the people sitting next to me, and, there's people sitting in, cause we were front row center. So my dad and I sitting there, and I'm looking around me, and there's people in suits and dressed up, and, look like, it's just, it wasn't, I think that helped, but I just saw it. I go, man, I can play this, till I'm in my older years, and it's music that appeals to everybody.
How come you moved here in the first place, if you're comfortable?
No, my parents moved to Florida in 1985 from Arkansas.
What made them move?
Basically financial circumstances.
Gotcha.
My parents, declared bankruptcy and moved to Florida. We couldn't make a living there. There was, when we moved to Florida in 85, the place we moved from, and it's crazy to think about it now and crazy to say, but it was basically a 1-room place with 9 of us living in it. I've got 6 brothers and sisters younger than me. So there was my parents,
God,
and myself and my 6 younger brothers and sisters all living in this 1-room place, which was about, I don't know how many square feet it was. It wasn't much bigger than my living room that I have here in my condo. And
wow.
and we had an outhouse. We didn't have a toilet in the house. We literally went out and used an outhouse. And it's crazy for me to think about it now, that this was 1985, mind you. It wasn't like it was 1965 or something, or 55.
Yeah.
This is 1985. But at the time, to me, it didn't seem, I wasn't like, oh, this is odd, or it's just the way it was.
Right. Yeah.
So, basically my parents, had basically financially hit the end of, and moved to Florida. My grandparents lived down here, and my dad, my couple aunts lived down here and stuff. And we moved to Florida, and they were able to get jobs. My dad's into construction stuff, and they were able to immediately get jobs down here. Back then, the construction was booming.
Yeah,
so it's like,
right. And, especially in Florida, it's always a little better than other places. But yeah, that was a good time.
And it was a very pivotal moment in our lives and stuff. And
wow, that's amazing.
Totally life changing.
7 kids.
Yeah, man.
I have 3, and I'm overwhelmed. and they're older, so I'm fine now. But like, I feel like a little bitch now, even thinking about like when they're listening to this and they have 7.
What's crazy is they had us when they were young. My mom had me when she was 17.
Right.
And
which is probably old for Arkansas, actually, right?
You're right, exactly. Usually it's 13, 14. Yeah. But my dad, my dad was like 19 and stuff, and so
oh my God,
they're basically kids raising kids, figuring it out along the way, and
wow, that is,
everyone's doing good. No one's ever been in any trouble or anything, and everyone is pretty much self-employed, and everyone's doing good. Yeah, it's
right on, man. That's
pretty amazing, man.
Happy ending, man. And that's really good to hear.
I like what you mentioned about, I was reading over your thing there, and you mentioned about, developing survival skills and things like that. And that's, that comes from necessity, because you don't have any other choice. You've got to figure out, how am I going to eat? How am I going to, I was working when I was, as soon as we moved to Florida, I worked, got a job working at Burger King for, whatever it was, $4 an hour or something like that. And then, then worked with my dad for one of the painting contractors, over the summer when I was 17, and just, hey, you want a nice pair of Reeboks to wear to school like all the other kids? You got to go buy them yourself, man.
Right, man.
There was no choice. And that's how the survival skills are developed. The older I get, the more I realize that,
Yeah. And I think I think I'd rather have them than like have no, there are people today who have no coping skills for anything.
I know several.
It's prolific,
And I realized from that observation what it means when they say, spoiling a child. It's like, I used to equate, that guy's, they spoil that kid, they give him all this. I equated that with like they're giving all this stuff to him, and they're, they have they have it on easy street and stuff. But I realized after this observation that spoiling a child is actually, no, you're not spoiling. You're giving them, by giving him all this stuff, you're spoiling their necessary survival skills sometimes. Because if you don't have to, well, I could go get a job, but I really don't have to, because I know that I'm going to be taken care of one way or the other. But if you don't have that, then you have to freaking figure out a way to freaking, to survive and eat and get the things that you want.
Yeah. Do you have kids?
I do not. No. Yeah. I don't. I'm 51 years old. All my brothers and sisters have kids, but I thought I think about that sometimes, and I think one of the reasons was I've always been kind of leery because and worried about it, because I saw my parents struggle so hard.
I totally get that, man.
Growing up, trying to, most arguments stemmed out of financial, things and stuff, and arguing about money and how the heck we're gonna, And of course,
it's true.
My dad would
a lot
say,
of stress.
don't ever have kids, but don't ever have, oh man, you're gonna, so I think that's partially, one. And I feel like if I did have kids, I probably wouldn't be able to, do them. I mean, I've been playing music for a living, solely for a living since, for over 15 years now, where I've made my living solely from playing.
Congratulations, man.
Thank you. And it's difficult. And I put myself in
really
a
awesome
situation to where, that my lifestyle is conducive to that. I don't have to make a ton of money, and I'm only basically, I'm taking care of myself. So,
yeah. Good for you. Congratulations, man. That's
thanks.
But you're right about my kids. I was the only parent that didn't buy them a car. And I was like, look, I told them when they were younger, start saving. We'll match your savings.
There you go, man.
And then you get what you get when you're 16, 17, whatever, and I'll kick in a little bit of money, but I wasn't. And they all bitched, and all of them later came to me and said, I get it now. Yeah. Right. They said, I understand. Because all these kids got cars and they wrecked them. And man, they'd wreck. And you know what the mom and dad would do? Go buy them another one.
Oh, sure. Yeah. That's okay, little Johnny. Yeah, we'll
get you another one. It's okay. and it wasn't like like on my first car, it was like a 77 Datsun, or like it was a piece
dude.
they buy him like a new BMW. And this isn't like in an affluent area. It's just like a middle class. And I would be like, man, I felt like the inmates are running the asylum because I just didn't understand any of that.
I live in, like I said, I live in Boca Raton, and I live kind of close to a high school. And sometimes I drive by and I see these kids, and they're driving Land Rovers and freaking Mercedes Benz and Porsches to school. And I go, wow, I can't even fathom that.
Yeah, that's a disservice to the kids, man, because they're not going to be able to support that on their own.
I think so, and it's like,
I agree with you, brother. All right, so you've been doing this 15 years full time. Being a band leader, as a band leader too, which is really huge. It's not, because that is not easy. And did you ever consider being a sideman, or always wanted to run the show? I don't mean run the show. I mean, just do your own thing.
I've started out when I first, got into doing blues stuff. Well, obviously when I played in metal bands, it was a band, and there was no real leader per se. It was just, we were just in this band together, 4 of us, and we, did everything together and whatever. And, but when I first, started getting into the blues, I wasn't singing. I backed guys up. I would take any gig I could get, backing people up. And so I've been a sideman many times, and I still do every now and again. I'll go do a gig with my buddy Terry Hank. He's a sax player, really awesome sax player, singer. He's like in his 70s, and from being a sideman, I learned a lot by observing these band leaders and how they would put together a show and how they would run things and stuff. So that being a sideman was extremely beneficial and fruitful in the way of observing and watching how these guys did it and stuff. So I enjoyed it. I mean, I enjoyed it, and I always went in with the approach of, as a sideman, when I was working for somebody, that like, okay, I'm going to do whatever these guys want me to do. I'm a real simple rule that I applied. And I would say to myself, I'm not going to give this guy any reason to even want to consider having to look for somebody else. Right. Real simple. And that's, again, survival instinct, survival mode kicking in. I'm not going to give this guy any sort of reason to want to even consider having to find somebody else. And that means showing up on time, helping them load the PA when they get there, or unload the PA, or whatever. Hey, do you want me to turn down? You want me to turn up a little? You want me to, would you like me to play this style of guitar or this style? Just totally trying to support them and like I said, not give them any reason to want to consider even having to find anybody else.
It's interesting. You used the word observing like 2 or 3 times already. So I already like you, because you like to learn and look and watch.
Sure.
And I think that's the secret to everything.
Absolutely, man. Yeah.
Not pretending you know everything. Just shut up and listen and watch, and then like, oh, that's how it goes.
Yeah. And I still feel that way about the instrument. I mean, I've been doing it for, it's a long, long time. I started playing when I was 11 years old, and I've only taken a couple lessons, pretty basically self-taught. And I've learned these things from observing other musicians and latching on to other musicians. If I found someone that was good, I'd latch on to them and try to absorb as much as I could. And it just constantly trying to learn. And still, even as we sit here now, I look at the guitar sitting around my living room here, and the instrument is still a mystery to me. Like I still feel like, I kind of got it figured out, but it's still, I don't know shit.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel,
I totally get that. I think smart people realize how little they know. Yeah. And how much more there is to learn. And people, maybe if they're not so smart, those are the ones that think they know everything.
Sure. And it's never ending, that's one of the beauties of music and playing an instrument. It's like, it's never ending. The amount of stuff to learn,
Totally agree. I was shocked when you said that you didn't sing in the beginning, because your voice, you couldn't have a more perfect voice for blues, especially. Like,
Man,
are you a smoker?
I used to be. I stopped 10 years ago.
Good for you, man.
The day after I turned 40, I put down a half a pack of Parliament Lights and left them sitting on my coffee table for 3 months, and haven't touched one since.
Right on, man. But it's funny though, because when you hear you sing, it's like, man, this guy sounds like he smokes 1,000 cigarettes a day. It's like the perfect blues voice. I was like,
oh man,
it's perfect, man.
I appreciate that. I honestly feel that I mean, I appreciate you saying that, but for me, I'm real nervous about my vocals all the time and stuff, because I feel like that's kind of my it's one of my weaknesses, I feel like, in a way, but it's funny you mention that, because I was up in Memphis a few weeks ago, doing a showcase up there at the International Blues Challenge. I did a showcase for this lady Amy Bratt that does my social media stuff for me. She had a Brat Girl Media Showcase, he called it. Anyway, and Shamika Copeland said it. I don't know if you're familiar with Shamika.
Sure am.
Yeah,
great voice,
awesome,
man.
Yeah. And she sit in, and I had done a couple songs, sang a couple songs prior to her coming up and jamming with us, and when she left the stage, I was like, oh, it's a real pleasure playing with you and stuff, and she whispered in my ear, she goes, I love your voice, she said, and I go, wow, that's
pretty cool.
That made me feel pretty good,
Yeah.
Her, I said, wow, this is, she's really amazing, and just, it's pretty neat.
Yeah, she's got a beautiful voice. I've heard her on a lot of Government Mule records and just others. I know she has, I think I interviewed someone who played on one of her records as well. Can't remember off the top of my head.
Arthur Nielsen, maybe?
No.
Yeah.
I'm like approaching 700 interviews, man. And I'm normally like pretty sharp in my general life, but just through sheer numbers, like in such a small time, I kind of like lose track of who's who. Yeah. I never forget the feeling, but I could, like, the details sometimes I just won't remember.
Yeah, man.
But I'm not surprised she said that at all. Your voice is awesome. That's the first thing you hear when you put your music on.
That, man.
Really good. Let's talk about your new record, Let Go of the Reins. You said something straight from the beginning. I associated music with fun and happiness. And the first thing I wrote here is, you notice that this is a fun record, gritty blues, but upbeat, original, and fun. And of course I said, and your voice is like the best blues voice, man. So how much of that, again, to the extent you're comfortable, how much of your music is fun? It feels good. It's not, even when you're playing a slow blues, it's fun. It's not like, man, where's my razor blade? It's it's over. Are you like that personally?
It depends on the day.
Fair enough, man.
Yeah,
I feel you.
I feel good today. The day's a good, fun day, and I got a bunch of the stuff accomplished yesterday, my taxes and stuff. So today feels good.
Oh, I hear you.
Yesterday, when I was getting ready to dive into the taxes and anticipating the the workload that was going to entail, and it was like I get stressed out and a little anxiety and stuff. But
I can't blame you.
And I have this theory, because I go through these things where some days you just feel like you don't feel good, it's a crappy day or whatever. But I actually have a line in one of the songs on the second album, and it's and the line is, if we didn't have some bad days, you wouldn't know what a good day was. So I think it's all relative to you have to have that yin and yang. It's all so
totally, man. I agree with you.
Yeah,
I agree with you. But your music is fun, man.
Thank you.
It's
yeah,
really
and
cool.
I try to make it fun, and we had a blast recording that record. I mean, you definitely can hear it in there. We went there for 5 days with just a handful of ideas. I mean, if I
where'd you go? Where'd you record that?
In Houma, Louisiana, at Tab Benoit's studio.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Did he play drums?
He did play drums, and
that's his MO.
Oh, he loves it, man. He'll play drums till the sun comes up. I've seen it happen many times.
Yeah.
and Chris Pete, our the drummer that normally plays with me, that's played on all my other CDs, and plays live with me and stuff. And we've been playing together for almost 15 years now. He's playing bass on it. He's become a really good bass player over the past he's been messing around with it for over 10 years probably now, and he's great, man. He's got an awesome feel, and like if I could clone him, I'd be in heaven.
Yeah, you have him on bass and drums, right?
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, we went there to Tab Studio for 5 days and recorded that album, and like the day before we left, I just went through my iPhone, and picked out a bunch of ideas on my my voice memos. What I'll do is, if I come up with a riff or something, I always grab my phone and record it on the voice memo as soon as I'm coming up with it, or as soon as I'm feeling it, because I've realized from the past, I've learned a lesson that if I don't do that, it's a fleeting moment and I forget about it, and I was like, oh, this is too good of a riff I'll remember this for sure. I never do. I never remember so I always record it right then and there.
Good for you.
On my voice memo, and then I give it a name, like whatever, rainy day, Sunday afternoon, jazzy riff, or whatever the vibe of it is,
Sure.
And then I can go back through and and sift through. So that's what I did before we went and recorded this last record. I was like, the day before we left, I went through my phone, picked out probably 10 or 15 little rough ideas, little ditties, riffs, basically sent them to myself. And then that's essentially what became the songs,
And you worked on those lyrics and everything
while we were there. And what was amazing about that, it was, there was something magical going on, down there when we were there, for sure, because we would record, we'd start recording about 2 in the afternoon, and we'd finish up around 10 o'clock at night. And then we'd sit around with Tab, drinking and carrying on and laughing and telling stories and stuff till literally sometimes till the sun came up. Right.
Wow.
I'd go to sleep. And then from those conversations that we were having and from the laughing and carrying on, I'd wake up in the morning, to go use the restroom or whatever. And I'd have an idea in my head, like for a lyric or something like that. And I'd still be in a haze, because I just kind of got up and I'm, making my way to the restroom to, use the restroom. And then this idea in my head, and I would go in there and write it down on a piece of paper, the idea, whatever the lyric, what it was, time to be done. Okay. Write that little idea down. And then I'd go back and lay down, sleep for another 30 minutes, 45 minutes, whatever. And wake up in the same things. And that's where probably 75% of the lyrics came from. So
that's amazing.
It was really a really amazing, special thing. And I thought to myself, like, man, we recorded this album in 5 days and like pretty much crafted it, and everything happened in those 5 days. And I thought to myself, could I go do that again? Like, would that?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Would that magic happen again like that? I don't know if it would or not. It was a very special thing, So
that is really incredible. Because it's almost like you're on a vacation. Like, how often in real life do you get to wake up and then go back to bed for 45 minutes?
Well, right. Yeah.
That's normally you're up and like, shit, I got to start my day.
Exactly. And that was another thing I think about being there for those 5 days, is like, we knew what we were going there to do, and basically shut the phones off. I wasn't on the phone trying to book gigs. I wasn't dealing with this person, talking with that person, or anything. I was just going there and solely focused on creating and recording. So that, I think that was huge, to be able to just isolate. And he lives in a kind of an isolated area. There's not much around. He lives down there on the bayou. Right. And it's just like, there's a little, a little bayou around his house and stuff. And there's nothing around. So it's not like you can just walk out inside and take a walk over to the convenience store or whatever. It was just kind of isolated, which was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great, man. Well, it's a great album. It's amazing how natural that came out.
And something magical down there in the waters of that bayou, man. And stuff. There's something in the air down there that just brings out a certain something in you.
And that was your first record with him?
Yeah. Well, the first record on my own with him. Yeah. we did one of the Southern Hospitality records that actually the only Southern Hospitality record that we have. We recorded that there back in 2013. So I kind of already had an idea what I was in for.
Yeah. Very cool, man.
Yeah. And that's
so
the first album I've done where I didn't, where the other ones were done at the same studio I've been working at for years. It's in the same place I recorded, 5 Divine Empire death metal albums and stuff. So I've been working with the guy for many years. It's in Fort Lauderdale. It's called Studio 13. Yeah. Jeremy Staska. Yeah. So that's the first departure from doing it like that. And the other albums I would spend, I would just go in when I had time and when the engineer Jeremy had time and stuff. So it was like those albums would, I would take, over a year to record those, working on them sporadically, when I had time and stuff, as opposed to going in and focusing, for multiple days on the same thing. So
that's really cool, man.
Yeah.
I want to talk about some of the tracks. You got a song on there called Freddie King Thing, which is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Was Freddie your favorite King? Is it out of the 3?
No, not necessarily. I don't necessarily have a favorite, obviously, BB King, because that's kind of what
started everything.
Yeah, exactly. So not really one in particular. I just had that little riff, and when we were down there, I said, oh, I got this little this kind of little Freddie King thing riff, and stuff. And then when we were that's what the song Tab was like. That's the name of the song. That's what
Freddie King thing.
When we recorded the music, not the lyrics, but when we recorded the music, when he when he's typing it in, what the name of the tune or this track is, that's what he initially put in, and we're well, that's the name of the tune. That's what we'll call it.
What was nice about it is you really did a good tribute to him in there without using his licks. It was like his in the style of, but it was your stuff, which I thought was really cool, because a lot of times you hear like a tribute, and there's nothing wrong with it, but usually it's the musician or the artist playing one of their songs or like a version of it. This is your own song, man. Yeah.
And man, I admire guys that can do that. I mean, I've got friends that can, you hear them play and you close your eyes and you think you're listening to BB King, or you think you're listening to whoever they're emulating. And I admire that, but I've never been able to do that. It never feels right to me. And I feel like if I did that, I'm doing the artist an injustice, because I can't really, I know I'm not going to be able to play it exactly like, exactly like that person. It's like I think
you're doing yourself an injustice too, in a sense.
Yeah.
Because you're not, I mean, you're not being you. And if, I don't know, it's hard enough to be yourself. To be someone else is like impossible.
I think about it like this. I mean, how many times have you heard, like people that influence us, like BB King or Albert Collins, or, or T-Bone Walker, or anybody, Howlin' Wolf, or, whatever the case may be, Eddie Van Halen or whatever. I mean, you don't hear people talking about Eddie Van Halen say, oh man, when he came out, he sounded exactly like so-and-so. No, you always hear
good
them,
point.
Always you hear them say, man, when I first heard so-and-so, I'd never heard anything like that. No one was doing that. And that's the stuff that goes down and becomes, of course those guys are influenced by people, but you don't hear people saying, oh, people that they revere and are influenced by, there's, oh, he came out and he sounds exactly like so-and-so. That it's always happen. No, it's always like, man, when I first heard, T-Bone Walker, it blew my mind, because I never heard anything like that. It's like the first time when I heard Muddy Waters, it blew my mind. I was like, I'd never heard anything that sounded like. Same with Metallica. Right. When I heard Master of Puppets, I was like, holy shit, I never heard anything like, it sounded like that.
Yeah, very good point, man. You got something in there a track called Lonely Fire.
Mm-hmm.
Man, is that a beautiful acoustic track, as is Old Silver Bridge, which is acoustic and banjo. I mean, they're really pretty. What's the backstory to those two songs, if there is one?
The Lonely Fire tune, I think I came up with that little progression. We were playing this festival down in Brazil, I remember, and I picked up my guitar and put new strings on it, and I was in the hotel, put new strings on the guitar, and then just that little progression came to me, and all I had was the Lonely Fire part, right? And it kept saying, Lonely Fire. I had that progression, and I had like a melody in my mind, but I had no lyrics for it. All I had was Lonely Fire. So when we got down to tabs, to the studio, that's one of the progressions that I brought to the table. Hey, check this out. I got this little thing here. And so we recorded it. And while we were recording it, I would kind of lay down like a scratch vocal, like a guide vocal thing. But all I had was the Lonely Fire part. So all I'm saying throughout the whole thing is like, it's kind of mumbling, Lonely Fire, Lonely Fire. So when we're listening back to the tracks, Tab especially, we were laughing our asses off because he's like, what are you saying there? I go, Lonely Fire. And he said, what is that, man? What's the Lonely Fire? I go, I don't know. That's what I feel like it, and that was like one of the last songs that we came up with lyrics for. And I could not come up with lyrics for that. I just couldn't think of anything. And then one day we got up and Tab comes in, to start the recording session. He's got the lyrics and he's holding them up. He goes, the lyric fairy came and visited me last night. He goes, I got the lyrics for Lonely
Oh, that's
Fire.
cool, man.
So he wrote those lyrics. Yeah. But, and still when I play that song, when I'm singing Lonely Fire, I'll look back at Chris Pete, our drummer, sometimes and just smile because we laughed so hard, like listening back to those initial tracks with that scratch track, just mumbling Lonely Fire.
That's cool. Hilarious. Good story, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how about the other ones? Old Silver Bridge.
Yeah. I'm going to grab this little instrument real quick.
Go ahead, man. Yeah, do it, man.
That is.
Absolutely do it.
So the instrument, it's funny because folks think that this is a banjo, and it totally sounds like a banjo. But what it is, it's this thing. It's a Merlin stick dulcimer. And
wow, where did you? That's like an Arkansas thing.
Well, actually, it totally could. Yes, yeah. It's like an Appalachian. But this thing, I got this in Canada. We were playing up there a while back, and
what's it called? A Merlin.
A Merlin stick dulcimer. Yeah, Merlin, and it's made by that company Seagull, which is Godin guitars and stuff.
Yeah, man, I know those guys pretty well. Yeah.
Yeah, so they're the ones that make it. Well, it's cool that you know them because I've been wanting to try to get a hold of them. I've never seen anybody playing one of these things out, and I play it out, and
I'll talk to Mario.
Man, that would be awesome because I mean, there's
inconsistencies.
I mean, it's a cheap little instrument. It's built good, but it's like there's some improvements that I could see done. I wanted to talk to them because I play it out. I mean, I play festivals on this thing, and stuff, and but there's little things that could be, like I'd like to have one with better tuning keys and like the volume knobs and stuff are up here. So if you're playing along, you gotta
it's really hard.
Yeah, you can't stop, and you gotta basically, interrupt what you're doing exactly, as opposed to having it. So little things like that. But anyway, that's
cool. Yeah, I just was talking to him today. I'll text him later. Yeah, man,
that would be awesome.
Yeah,
and I've got some videos of me playing it, like at festivals and stuff, and in front of thousands of people.
Yeah, man, send me those, and then I'll send them to him. Yeah,
right on. And it's so I just keep it. You can see how small it is. I keep it in the front seat of the van when we're traveling around. And that song, Old Silver Bridge, I remember I had the,
It's so pretty, man.
It's very soothing, And so we're traveling in the van through upstate New York, in the mountains and stuff. And I'm just playing that. And we had the day off, and I think we had went to some, we'd like to go visit a park or something sometimes if we got a, day off and just chill out, and enjoy the nature and stuff. And we were walking around that day and there were birds chirping and woodpeckers and just streams and I basically just came up with those lyrics as we were driving, in the van, just observing what was around me. And that's like, there's,
it's such a nice riff, man.
It's a little out of tune right now, but it sounds like a banjo. And it's funny because when I first started breaking this out on the gigs, after we recorded that song, it's like, well, I got to start playing this tune now. And so I would started playing on it, and all of a sudden, people's demeanor and the whole vibe of the room or the festival changed and people start reacting in a whole different way as soon as this thing comes out. And I'm like, all right. So now I've got like 3 different songs that I do on this when I break it out,
It's a really soothing. You use the right word, man. It's very calming, man.
Yeah, it is. It's just.
Of course, if I played it, it would not be so calming.
Yeah, it's
sounds
fun,
great, man.
Thank you. But yeah,
cool.
It sounds like a banjo, But that's the story with the old Silver Bridge tune. That song kind of, the vibe of that tune. My mom really loves that song too, because it reminds us of Arkansas, like where we grew up.
It does
and stuff, and it's got that
very
vibe.
rural.
You're sitting on the front porch, just
Yeah, man. Yeah. It's cool. So your parents listen to all your music, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's nice.
And they critique it. They're not like, oh, little Johnny, he's so wonderful, and blah 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 blah. I mean, my dad will hear stuff and go, that one's a little corny. That one starts out a little corny and goes in there. But I'm glad that they're like that. They're never like, they don't coddle me in any way, which is great. They're very honest.
That's cool.
Yeah. And my mom likes the new CD the best out of any of them. And so I'm like, that's cool.
It's a great record, man. It's a really nice
Thanks.
record. It's a great, not just a great blues record. It's a nice record, period. It's good to listen to.
Man.
You're welcome.
You.
What did you play on there guitar wise? Like what guitars you?
The main guitar on there is a Heritage 535.
Yep. So that's like the 335.
Exactly. It's their version of the 335. And I actually got that guitar. It was a gift from Jason Newstead.
Holy shit. Tell me through this.
Well, Jason, and that's what's crazy. Like this whole thing has come full
circle. Yes.
Totally. Because I mentioned earlier, when in 1986, I heard Master of Puppets for the first time. It freaking blew my mind. Well, about 4 years ago, well, actually it's been longer than that, but there was a fan that used to come to, still does. He comes to the gigs and he's like, yeah, are you into Metallica? I go, oh yeah, huge influence. He goes, I'm friends with Jason Newstead. He's my neighbor, and he lives in Jupiter, Florida, right? And this is going like 7-8 years ago. Well, about 4 years ago, he shows up on a gig with Jason, and
that's weird.
It's insane. So I take a break and my the other guy in the band's like, hey man, Jason Newstead's standing over there. He wants to meet you. What the hell? And so I went over and met him, and we've been friends ever since, man. He bought a couple of Cigar Boss guitars off of me. We get together and jam.
That's so cool.
He's actually playing on the title track of my last album, the Southbound I-95. That's Jason on bass.
That is so cool, man.
It's really neat, man. And he's just a super cool guy. It was funny. I was telling him about the story about the guitar that I got in the raffle, the BB King,
SG.
The SG. And I was explaining to him, how humble BB was when I met him. And one of the things he did when he went to sign that guitar, he says, oh, this is an awfully pretty guitar. You sure you want me to sign it? And that's how he was.
Yeah.
BB King, and I, wow. So anyway, I was telling Jason about this story. Well, the next time we got together at Jason's house, a little jam, he goes, hey man, I got something for you. And he brings you, and he presented me with the Heritage,
That's crazy, man. It's a really pretty guitar. It's a nice I've seen guitar, you play. Yeah, it's a really pretty guitar. Because I was looking at it when, because you use it a lot.
Yeah.
So I was watching a lot of your videos, and I said, man, that looks like a 335, but they don't have a color like that.
And the headstock is a little different.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And it sounds great. And
thank you.
You're really comfortable on that guitar too, man. I could tell. Yeah.
Well, over the past 8 months or so, I've actually been playing a Silvertone guitar.
Oh, yeah.
It's that guitar's got a crazy story, because I got that guitar. This is probably 5 years ago. We were playing this little club in Fort Gaines, Georgia on a Friday night in the middle of nowhere. Right? There's probably 15 people there maximum. And first thing I noticed when I walk into the place to set up is this guitar hanging on the wall as decoration, like you see at a club or whatever, just some cheap guitar on the wall hanging up, right? And I seen this thing sitting there, it had 3 strings on it. It's literally hanging up there with a coat hanger. So that thing's cool. So at the end of the night, when we finished packing up, I pulled it off the wall, tuned up a couple of the strings, didn't plug it in or anything, plugged a couple notes on it, and I, played a couple things. I go, man, this thing's got a vibe. I knew it was some kind of like harmony or K or something like that. They're all, I think the harmonies and Silvertones and Ks,
they're all, I think,
a lot of them were made in the same company.
Yes.
So I asked the owner of the club, I said, hey man, I go, what's up with this guitar? Somebody gave it to me about 10 years ago for decoration. He said, I go, would you be interested in selling it? He goes, well, I won't sell it, but what have you got to trade? I go, well, I said, I'm at the end of this tour. I said, normally I'd have, I could trade you a cigar box guitar for it or something. I said, well, how about this? I said, how about if I trade you 25 of my CDs and you can sell them in here for, $10, $15 a pop and make a couple $100. I had no idea what the guitar was worth or any of that.
Yeah.
He goes, sure. All right. So I traded 25 CDs for that guitar.
Wow.
Next day I put strings on it before we left. And I sit in the van the whole way home, because we drove from Fort Gaines, Georgia, back down to here. I sit in the van playing that thing the whole time, just in the front seat. Man, this thing's got a vibe. Well, I took a picture of it, posted it on Facebook, and said, hey, does anybody know what this guitar is? Starts blowing up. People chiming in. That's the H1446. It's the flagship model of Silvertone guitars. It's also known as the Hubert Sumlin model. There's people were sending me pictures of Hubert Sumlin playing it because he was endorsed by him for a while. That was his main guitar.
Interesting.
And also people were saying, it's also known as the Chris Isaacs guitar because of the song Wicked Ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the guitar on there. Yeah.
Okay, so is it the one that looks like is it a black and white or a sunburst?
Yeah, I'll grab it real quick.
Yeah, man, I'd love to see it.
Yeah,
Thank you, man. That'd be great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so this thing.
Yeah, so it's got, that's a cool looking guitar, man.
This thing has actually become the main guitar that I've been playing lately.
That's great. So it's a hollow body too.
It's completely hollow. Yeah, and I don't have it plugged in or anything, and you can just.
Great vibe.
Yeah. It's just got a.
Yeah.
It's got a certain sound that.
Very cool vibe,
and
man.
It goes out of tune a little bit and things like that, and it's got its inconsistencies, but it's just. It's got a vibe. It's got some mojo, So this is what I've been playing lately. Yeah, the main guitar.
That must sound great with some sort of drive on it, man.
It does. It does with a little overdrive on it and stuff. And when you're on the neck position and it's clean, that's when it really truly shines.
That's nice, man.
It's just when this is one of those guitars, like when I pick it up. 9 times out of 10, I'll come up with something on it, a riff or something. It's like it's one of those songs that writes songs by itself or something. A guitar,
dude. So you're spoiled. You got the Silvertone for nothing. You got the SG, the Heritage. How do you ever pay? Yeah. You can never pay for a guitar again.
I know. It's crazy. And this thing, I felt once I realized what it was, and I realized, oh wow, these go for like $2,000 on eBay and shit.
Yeah.
I called the guy that I got it off of. I said, hey man, that guitar is worth a good amount of money. I said, I want to send you. I sent him a cigar box guitar. I build these cigar box guitars. So I sent him one. I go, here, you hang this in place of that one.
Yeah, that was cool of you. That was really nice. Yeah.
I just felt like, man, they got such a good deal and. It was one of those finds that you hear about and like, wow, But it's funny
he didn't know either. That was cool of you.
No. It's funny that my, main guitar that I'm playing now, over the past year, is a wall, a friend, this fan that comes and sees us play all the time. She calls it the wall hanger guitar. He's like, hey, that's what it,
take that all day long.
Sure, man.
Sounds.
Yeah.
So you played the Heritage and the Silvertone primarily on the new record.
Well, on the new record was mainly the Heritage.
Mainly the Heritage.
That's because we flew down there and I you know, I could only bring minimal gear with me. So I said, well, the Heritage is a good all around. I mean, that thing, you can plug it into any amp and it's going to sound good. This thing's a little more fickle, you know, depending on the amp you plug it into, it's, you know, you try to plug this thing into a twin and it totally hollow. It doesn't really happen so well.
Yeah.
The Heritage, you can plug that thing into any amp and it's like, that's the workhorse guitar, you know.
And that's a semi-hollow, the Heritage,
yeah, the
right?
Heritage is a semi-hollow. Yep. Like the 335 you got hanging in the wall.
Yeah, I love that. That's my number one. I love that guitar.
That's a Gibson?
Yeah, it's a 2013. It's not a vintage. It looks like it. It's a long story.
There's a Bigsby on there, yeah?
Yeah.
Nice.
The guy who I bought it from was in Nashville. It was a Gibson employee.
Oh, wow.
So he put the Bigsby on there. So
nice.
At Gibson, right. And then he put the custom made sticker, decal on there. So it looks like a vintage with the dot.
Yeah.
It's great. I love that. It's my number one. I love it.
That's awesome.
Feels so good. But I want to get one of those. I'm looking to buy a Harmony, the tuxedo looking ones with the two DeArmond pickups.
Yep.
The old school. It's the same as you. I love it's kind of not probably sounds dramatically different than that. I love that sound. It's just really
they're
beefy,
neat, man. I've got a couple of the Silvertones. I've got an Espinata that I got off of somebody a while back, which is a really neat. It's a thicker. It's like a 175. It's like that.
Is that the white one or cream?
No, it's black and it's got like aluminum. It looks like these aluminum siding binding on it.
What's the guitar? I was going to ask you about this. You have a video. Do you hear my cat?
Yeah.
I feel so bad. He comes out and he wants to hang out, but he's the kind of cat. First of all, he's like the size of a dog. He gets on my desk, he'll be knocking shit over. I feel horrible.
Yeah, I got one that does the same thing. He's hiding out right now.
It's like I feel horrible. He's screaming out there. You have a video. There's a song you did called "Something Ain't Right" from Full Moon Night in Memphis album.
Yep.
It's a great song and a really cool video. But my question was. Two questions. First of all, since we're talking about guitars, what is that? It's either semi-hollow or hollow body cream colored guitar.
That is this guitar right here. That's this thing.
What is that?
That's an Epiphone, Joe Pass. And it's one of the first. That was my main guitar for many years. And it's a 91. It's one of the first when they came out with that guitar, it's one of the first runs of that guitar.
And you took one of the pickups out, it looks like?
Well, I'm actually, I took one out to put it in another guitar and I haven't put it back in yet.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But that guitar was, I've seen like one other one like it. I mean, you can see them all day long at the Guitar Center, the Joe Pass Emperor, but that one has an ebony fretboard, which the other ones, like if they don't, they got like a rosewood. So I think what it is, that one was also made in a Samick factory.
Okay.
And so I feel like it's, it was one of the first production runs of that guitar and with the ebony fretboard and stuff. So it's got a certain sound and a certain vibe to it. But that song was used on that Something Ain't Right. And you wouldn't think that's a hollow body because it's heavy and it's,
that's what I was blowing I was like, what is that? How is he getting that sound out of there, man?
It's bizarre. It's a bizarre guitar. We call it Gypsy. That's Jet's Gypsy. We call that guitar. Yeah.
Great sounding guitar, man.
Thanks.
And then, did you shoot that whole video in Broward?
Yes. Yep.
That's a really well-made video, man. That's kind of intense, actually. The whole, the whole moral of it. And, you talk about the homeless at the end. I thought it was very nice and really, very respectful and cool.
Because I would see, and that song was written fast. Like I remember that song was like the lyrics and everything, like were done within literally like 25 minutes or something. I came up with that, and it just wrote itself. It's one of them songs, and what it was like, down here in South Florida, you probably see it over there where you're at too. You drive around, you see like, it used to be, 10, 15 years ago, you'd see a homeless guy out there holding a sign, and it was a guy in his, typically, it was
an older guy,
an older white guy or something, there's probably in his 50s or 60s or something like that, but then recently, next thing I know, I start seeing like, ladies, mothers out there, holding the sign and stuff that are in their 20s or 30s or something, and young guys and stuff out there. And I'm like, man, something ain't right here. What
Yeah.
the heck is going on? And that song kind of just wrote itself. And that's actually my favorite video of the videos that we've done, because it just, I
It's
like
a great video, man.
the message of it, and just the
song is great. The song
Yeah.
is really good. The guitar
Thank you,
playing
man.
is like spot
Thank
on, man. It's just a good it's just a great vibe throughout, even though it's like a song with not a negative message, but you're pointing out some bad shit. That's a reality for everybody.
Yeah, man.
Yep. It's a great
Yep.
song, man. It's really good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Everybody listen to it. It's called Something Ain't Right. It's a real good video by JP Soars. Great song. And you get to see his Joe Pass, Emperor Joe Pass there.
Yeah.
Really, really cool. What else I got for you? Okay. Anything going on now that you're excited about, musically or otherwise?
Well, I'm getting ready to actually try to release a live gypsy jazz. I got this band where we play some gypsy jazz stuff. It's heavily influenced by Django Reinhardt.
Mm-hmm.
And last year we played a gig at this place called the Funky Biscuit here in Boca Raton. Yeah, and it's with with my core trio band with Chris Pete on drums and Cleveland Frederick, the bass player,
mm-hmm.
and then I add a piano player and 2 trumpet players. And these guys are, they're really good musicians. Top notch. They're jazz guys. They really know that stuff well. Anyway, so we played this gig.
That's a big band. That's 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, 6.
Not including
6
yourself.
folks.
5 people to manage. That's a lot of work.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And so we get together and do that once in a while, with that project. Well,
what's it called? What's the project called?
It's called JP Soars Gypsy Blue Review.
Very cool.
And so we did that show last year at the Funky Biscuit, and about a week later, a friend of mine there who was there videotaping, they do these videos, Datfly videos. You might have seen some of their videos. He was there, and he comes up to me. He hands me a flash drive. He goes, "Hey," this is the audio, from the board and partial audio from my microphones that I had set up, kind of blended together." And he goes, "It sounds really good, from that performance." I go, "Cool." I took it home. I set it on my counter. It sat there for about a month or something. And finally, one day I was sitting around here, and I think I was working on my taxes. Yeah, this is back in February last year. I spent
a lot of time doing taxes, JP.
Yeah, it sucks.
Well, it's good. You must be making money, so right on, man.
Yeah, it's a pain, yeah. But so I said, let me throw this on and take a listen while I'm working on my taxes. I put it on, and I go, holy shit, it sounds great. Just the quality of the audio and stuff. I go, man, this sounds good. And when we were playing, I was unaware that it was being recorded, so I wasn't conscious of it.
Which is probably a good thing.
It's a very good thing, because what happens anytime in those situations where I know it's like, maybe we'll use this for a live recording and it's being recorded, I'm conscious of it the whole time. I'm playing along and I'm thinking like, okay, don't fuck up. You got it going. You're doing good now. Don't mess up. And I always do, inevitably, because I'm thinking about it. Well, I wasn't thinking about it because I didn't know we were being recorded. So I can actually listen to it and go, oh, okay, that sounds pretty, sounds pretty good. So anyway, I plan on releasing that this year at some point.
That's awesome.
It's a live record of that performance. Yeah. And it's it's got some few bluesy things on there and stuff, but it's definitely more on the jazzy feel, and it's got the 2 trumpet players, they're amazing players, and the piano player, which is, great. And our bass player who plays with the Red Hots all the time, Cleveland. And, he leans more towards the jazz and the fusion and stuff like that. That's what he really digs into. So his playing on it's really, really good too. When I listen back to it too, I actually go, wow, I didn't realize he's doing all this, some of the stuff he was doing. I go, wow, that's really cool. Sometimes you don't notice it when you're in the heat of the moment when you're playing live, and then you listen back, you go, wow, this is some good stuff. So yeah, I'm gonna put that out.
Good for you, man. I give you credit, because some people would be scared to say, well, I'm a blues guy.
Yeah.
Okay, you're a blues guy. It's not like you're getting paid millions of dollars by the label to like monitor you. Do what you want, man. I think that's great.
And that's the thing I've come to the, conclusion. I play so many different styles and try to, and I like so much different stuff that I just, you know, I just consider myself as a musician first and foremost, as
Yeah.
opposed to, you know, a blues guy or a blues rock guy or a metal guy or this or that. I like it all. You know, I just like good music.
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
Are those the Gypsy Jazz tunes? Are those covers or any originals or?
Some of them are covers. Most of them are covers. Yeah. And
Yeah.
then there's a couple originals on there. Yeah.
That's
But most
great,
of them
man.
are covers. Yeah. There's a couple, you know, the Django tunes, and a couple standards, you know. I think we did Caravan on there. Yeah. So it's probably about 25% original and 75% covers.
That's great, man. I think that's really cool.
Thank you.
Low points. Any low points or dark periods you've had to deal with in life, and how'd you get through them?
Yeah, I mean, there's those, you know, back in 2009, you know, we won that International Blues Challenge thing.
Mm.
And right afterwards, I kind of had like I'm going to call it a nervous breakdown, so to speak. And it was the excitement of winning that thing. And then also the pressure of it, which was probably self-induced pressure of, you know, saying to myself, okay, God, I just, you know, now these folks are really going to be expecting to see, you know, I won this Albert King Award thing as the you know, is the best guitar player there. And, you know, and you know, we won this blues challenge as the, you know, you know, best band out of however many 150, 200 bands that were there. And so I started freaking myself out, thinking like, oh, there's this pressure. People are going to really be expecting to see, you know, have their minds blown, and you know, they're going to be critiquing me and all this stuff. And I just started that whole bit of it affected me in a negative way, and I kind of got a little too inside my own head and kind of freaked myself out.
Yeah, I can understand that.
And that was you know, and I couldn't sleep for days afterwards because my phone was ringing and my mind was racing, and I literally didn't sleep for a few days. And it was not drug induced. It was from just the excitement and the adrenaline and the whole worrying and all this stuff. And I started becoming actually delusional as a result of
from lack of sleep.
Exactly, from the lack of sleep, and wound up in the you know, in the
psych ward,
in this little cuckoo bin for about a week, man. And it freaked me out, freaked my family out, freaked me out. And that's probably
pretty
the
scary.
lowest point, you know, scariest, lowest point of, you know, as far as that goes. That was, it was a heavy duty thing.
How did you first of all, thank you for sharing that, man. And I don't think that you're alone by far.
Oh,
people
no.
listening, this heavy shit happens.
No,
and you
man.
know, especially performers, because you guys have a very tough job, because as it is, much of you're judged by how much you're liked.
Yeah.
You know, if people like your performance, did they clap? Did they? And
Sure.
now you got on top of that. Well, now I got to be liked this much because so I totally, you know, the expectations that you're perceiving.
Exactly.
It's overwhelming. I would totally understand. How did you unwind that though for yourself? Like, how did you, like, I'm sure they like drugged you out in the hospital, but
they tried. They tried to, and they tried to put me on this thing called Seroquel, which is literally actually an antipsychotic thing.
Holy shit.
And also something to help, you know, something to help me sleep. And, you know, and then, you know, when I left there, they prescribed me that. And well, I took that shit for about 3 or 4 days, and I go, I'm not going to, I threw it away.
Yeah.
I said, I'm just going to freaking get through it and go through it. And that was also right after I quit smoking cigarettes. So I think that also was playing a part in it, you know?
Because you go through a lot of physiological change.
Right.
The withdrawal is heavy
from the nicotine and stuff. I mean, I read up on it, and that itself will cause anxiety and shit like that. So it's a combination of all these things happening. And I was I think I was aware of it. You know, I'm pretty in tune with you know, with myself. I tried to be, and I just, you know, once I, you know, once I got out of that little situation there for the week that I was in there, um, I just started focusing on, you know, exercising, which I always been into that anyway. But I just, you know, started focusing on that more. And they taught me a couple meditative things when I was in there, some little Tai Chi type of stuff. So,
That's
and if I would start feeling that anxiety, those feelings, I would say, all right, I'm just going to chill out. I'm going to go over here to the park and go do some of this Tai Chi and try and ground myself and relax my mind. And that's kind of how I did it. Yeah.
good
Yeah.
for you, man. And thank God. You know what, man? I give you credit because like most people would have been like, oh man, I gotta smoke. This is that's like, you know,
No,
that
I
is
almost did,
so,
man. I almost did.
of
It came
course.
close. But I said to myself, when I quit smoking, the way I did it, because I had tried before, and I tried everything from hypnosis to freaking patches to gum, all this, you know,
Yeah,
laser treatment, all this bullshit. None of it ever worked.
sure.
I bought a book at the checkout counter at the grocery store that said "Quitting Smoking for Dummies."
Wow.
And I read that book, and one of the things it talked about, it was like envisioning this pyramid, you know, and at the top of the pyramid was quitting smoking, because if you don't quit this, then all this other shit that you keep putting off smoking for, because I can't quit smoking now because I got this coming up, or I got this gig coming up and I don't want to be out of sorts for it, so I'm going to wait.
Right.
And that book explained, like, you know, if you envision this pyramid, and quitting smoking is the priority, to stop that, and all this other shit. If you don't quit this, then you're not going to keep being able to do all this other shit, because you're going to die from the smoking these damn things. So I
Yeah.
made that my priority. I said, no matter what happens, I don't care if I sleep all day, if I lose my mind, if I eat, if I'm an asshole, if I, you know, if I can't remember lyrics, if I can't play or whatever, who cares? The most important thing is the priority of quitting this thing. And I kept that in mind the whole time. And
Dude,
knock
that
on
is
wood,
really, yeah,
knock on
man.
wood, I've never smoked another one since, man.
That is cool. I give you a lot of credit. See, that's where those survival skills come in, man. To be
Yeah, man.
honest with you, because you're thinking like probably not at the time, but sometime after that, you had a thought. Well, of course I can quit smoking. I sat there in a 1-bedroom apartment wondering what the hell I was going to even be able to eat. Quitting smoking's a breeze compared to that.
That's right. That's
Yeah,
right.
right.
And I put, you know, it was definitely a difficult thing to
Of course,
do,
of course.
you know. Oh
It's
yeah.
very hard.
But I put it as a priority, you know, and once I quit, and once I did it without the help of, you know, medication or patches or any of this other crap, or hypnosis or anybody else, basically just me, I realized the power of our mind. Like if you really, really, really set your mind to something, you can, you know, you can do it. You know,
Yeah.
I realized the power of the mind.
It's good you started exercising too. Because when I quit, that's when I started exercising. Because I'm like, man, let me start doing something that'll force me to feel. Because I know I couldn't exercise when I smoked, and I'll have that memory. And I've never stopped exercising for
That's good,
whatever,
man.
35,
That's awesome.
33 years. Yeah.
Yeah. And I always, you know, now when I see people smoking, especially the older folks smoking, I'm like, I feel sorry for them almost.
Yeah.
Like, man, like, you can beat this, man. Don't let that thing be a, you know. I just say, that's one thing I said to myself, I cannot be a slave to these things any longer. I don't want to be like, you know, this is too much controlling my life, this thing. So
right on, man. Well, thank you for sharing all that. That's really cool. Sounds like everything worked out in the end, man.
Yeah.
It's funny. Everybody has moments like that are just really, if you live long enough anyway, everybody has stuff that's like pushes you to the brink, you know, whatever it is, you know, it's life is not easy, man.
Yeah.
Favorite musicians you've enjoyed playing with?
Oh man. Well, you know, we got to jam with Duck Dunn one time.
Oh, wow.
Christmas Eve, 2012. We were playing this BB King's Blues Club, which was in West Palm for a while. It's no longer there. we had a residency gig there. I think every Thursday night or something it was.
Oh, that's cool.
And the sound guy is Jeff Dunn, which is Duck Dunn's son. And so he, we were friends with him and stuff. And he says, hey, Dad's coming in. Dad's in town tonight. For Christmas, he's visiting the kids and stuff. He might, he's going to stop by. And, he might want to sit in if that's cool with you guys. Are you kidding me? Of course it's cool. So that was a really, amazing experience, getting to get up and play, a couple songs with Duck Dunn on bass. That was very special. Terry Hank, the sax player that I mentioned, I mean, playing with him was and still is awesome. He's like 74 and just still plays his ass off, and he's 74 years old and still comes up and has this energy that I'm like, where does that come from? Like, how do you, and like, I only hope that I have that energy and exuberance when I'm his age and, playing like that. So that's always a treat playing with him. Jimmy Thackeray. Got to play with him. Charlie Beatty, little Charlie, and then little Charlie and the Nightcats.
And the Nightcats, yeah.
Yeah. He's real into the gypsy jazz stuff too. So whenever our paths cross, we get together and jam. And playing with Tab Benoit, jamming with Tab, on those blues cruises and stuff. A lot of times, just those impromptu jams that happen where it's like, we're not playing any particular song or anything, and it's just latching onto a groove and jamming. That's sometimes some of the most fun. Jason Newstead, getting to play with Jason.
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. And of course, getting to play with my drummer Chris Pete that I play with. He's one of my favorite musicians to play with still.
Very cool, man.
Yeah.
What do you play through amp wise?
The main amp that I used is a Princeton. I got a 1973 Fender Princeton. I used to use a Super, was my main amp for years, and then I went to a Deluxe, which is a little smaller than that. And then I went down to the Princeton, and I love it.
Yeah.
It's the tone is great. Like the tone that I get from the Deluxe is louder, but it's not as good as the tone that I get from the Princeton. And it works great, especially with this, with this guitar, with the silver tone, totally hollow. It's a good combination.
That's
and it's light, and soundmen love it. When you walk into a venue with that little amp, they're just like, oh, great! I don't need to put the plexiglass shield up in front of it and stuff. I mean, I go play festivals with that thing.
With the Princeton, really?
With the Princeton, it's a 12-watt amp.
That's amazing.
Put a microphone in front of it, set it up on the little stand so I can hear it, and yeah.
Do you ever play down here? You ever play Skippers?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, we play there every now and again.
Yeah.
And, Damon Fowler.
Man, I got turned on to him, and I spoke to him, and he wanted to come on the show. I never heard back.
Oh man, yeah. Maybe
I don't know
reach out again.
Yeah.
He's got a couple kids and stuff, so he's pretty busy probably with that stuff sometimes. But yeah, Damon's great, man. He plays over there.
I've seen him play 4 or 5 times. Same thing with Sean Chambers. I had Sean on the show. I've seen Sean play a bunch of times. Yeah. And I live like 5 minutes from Skippers. So
right on. There's a lot of good players over there. Definitely. Yeah. Doug Deming, Doug Deming in the Jewel Tones?
No.
Doug Deming, yeah, he's from over there, Sarasota area.
I'll have to check him out.
Doug Deming, yeah, he's great. Great, like jump swing, traditional blues stuff, really good.
Tell me the top 3 Desert Island discs, no particular order, and just for today.
Okay. The Beatles' White Album. Miles Davis, Kinda Blue. Can only be 3, huh?
Yeah.
And I'd have to say Django Reinhardt, 20th Century Complete Collection, I believe it's called.
Very cool.
And I would say if I had another one, I would throw Master of Puppets in there.
There you go. It's a pretty eclectic. It's a pretty good variety there. Tell me the best decision you ever made, JP.
Best decision I ever made was quitting Motorola and moving out to California to pursue the music and never looking back, saying, I'm not going to do this corporate job stuff. It's not for me.
Good for you, man.
Yeah.
You work at the Motorola down on Sunrise Boulevard?
No, I worked at the one out on, it used to be out off of Gateway Boulevard.
Funny. Because I used to live in Plantation, so I kind of know that area pretty well.
We were building pagers. This is back in the early 90s.
Oh, wow.
And we were making pagers. Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I bet you, like, I've seen these commercial videos on you. I haven't watched them, but like I see the previews, you know, kids, you put a rotary phone in front of a kid's, like young kids.
Oh yeah, they don't know. They're like, I saw that video.
Yeah.
Like, how does that? What do we do?
Right.
Yeah.
It'd be the same thing with a pager for most people. They're like, what do you do with this thing? That's funny, man.
That's what they were doing back then, was making the pagers and stuff. And it's funny because here's a full story little thing too. It's like, I went to school for electronics back when I was playing in the metal bands and stuff and trying to do that. And I went and got a degree in electronics and took out student loans and all that, and got the job at Motorola and everything, which I couldn't stand. I quit and moved to LA. But what's funny is I kept deferring my student loan, putting off payment. And I paid off my, because I went to school so I'd have something to fall back on in case my music don't work out. Well, how do you think I paid off that student loan?
With your music.
That's right. Yeah.
That's great, man.
Yeah. I paid off the student loan from music.
What did you do when you went to LA? That's a bold move.
It was, yeah. When I was working at Motorola, I met this French guy. He was working there. Pierre Pichon. He's the one that actually turned me on to Django Reinhardt stuff.
Okay.
And well, we became buddies. He played guitar, and he had studied at a conservatory over in France and stuff. So he knew a lot of theory and stuff, which I didn't know. And that's when I mentioned earlier, like, if I found somebody that could play and that had some knowledge, I would latch on to him and try to absorb and learn as much as I possibly could from him. He was one of those guys. And we worked at Motorola together for probably, 4 or 5 months. And then he quit to move out to LA to go to the GIT. And we kept in contact, and he kept saying, hey man, it's awesome out here. There's tons of musicians, because I was trying to find musicians to put together a blues band, even though I was still playing in the metal bands and stuff. And, he said, there's a ton of musicians out here, and it's just really cool and stuff. And I kept talking about it. And he's like, you can share the apartment here and stuff, and, you rent out a room and everything. And, so it's like, I finally made the jump, and I said, all right, I'm going to do it. I quit my job and loaded up my little Volkswagen Fox with all my shit, and, classic story.
Drove across the country.
Broke down, and, classic story, broke down in Mississippi, on the way out there, and rented a U-Haul truck and put all the stuff in the U-Haul truck and towed the car. So I arrive in LA in a U-Haul truck towing my broken down car.
Oh my God.
The typical story,
Yeah.
And so that's how I wound up going out there. And I lived out there for about 2 years. Didn't go to the GIT because it was really expensive.
It's very expensive.
And one telling thing that happened to me was, like, I remember, going there with Pierre, my buddy, and he had some musicians, that he had kind of started this jury band, I guess, when they have the jury band where they put together a band and they learn songs, and they get judged by the teachers or whatever, and it's part of the whole course of the class. And he had showed me some videos of them playing songs like, Riviera Paradise and a few of these other, some tunes. And I was like, wow, these guys are great. They can, really play. So we go to do a rehearsal there at the GIT with these dudes that had been going there for, probably two or 3 years, probably on the verge of graduating. And I go, all right, let's just warm up with a little shuffle and see, I went to the jam with them because we were going to, put a band with these guys or something.
Yeah, sure.
And I go there to jam with them. I said, let's just warm up with a little shuffle and see, It sounded like crap. Those guys were lost. If it wasn't a worked out song that they had known. So to me, I was like, okay, I want to, go to the school to learn about stuff, but here I am trying to jam with these guys that have been going there for X amount of years, and they can't jam. They're not just jamming. And that, of course, that's not to say everyone there's like that at all.
Right.
But for me, I was like, well, and I couldn't afford it for one thing too. But that was a telling for me. That was a pivotal moment for me where I said, you know what, I'm not going to spend all this money and go to this school. But what I did do, most of the people that were living in the apartment complex that we were living in were all going there to the GIT. So I'd make friends with these guys, and they were showing me the shit that they were learning in school. Chords.
Right.
Oh, check out this cool chord I learned. It's an A minor 11. So I would again absorb as much as I possibly could.
Did you start playing out there at all? 'Cause that's a tough.
I started going to open jams and stuff.
Okay, cool.
Which is cool.
Plenty of those.
Yeah, I started going to open jams and stuff. I never really got a band together. I did have some friends. Have you ever heard of a band called Puya? Puya?
No.
They were from Puerto Rico. They put out 2 albums on MCA back in the Universal Latin Division back in the mid '90s. Well, it was like 97, I think. Yeah, 97, I think it was. That's when I'd moved out there. Well, I met them when they moved to Florida. Prior, probably in 93 or something. But anyway, they got signed, moved out to LA. So when I moved out there, I wound up, after I was out there for about 4 or 5 months, I wound up connecting with those guys, and they were recording, they were recording for MCA, and they got signed and everything. But so we had a side project with those guys. So that was pretty cool.
Okay, cool.
And we'd play some gigs and stuff like that, and stuff. So I got to hang with them guys, and while they were recording that album, and go into the studio and observe how the guy was mixing the album and stuff, and just certain little things. I noticed, like the Tony Peluso was the guy that was mixing that album, and I sit there and I remember watching him mix it, doing the final mixes. Most of the time when he was mixing on these little Radio Shack speakers. He would turn it down real low, real quiet, to where you could barely hear it, and listen to make sure he could still hear all the instruments at very low volume. And that was a crucial observation. And then he would do that, and then he would throw it on the big speakers and pump it up, And I realized, like, man, when you're listening to something on a source like these little cheap Radio Shack speakers, if it sounds good on that, and a low volume, and you can still hear the snare, you can still hear the bass, you can still hear the percussion, the guitars, all the instruments, you still hear everything at this very low volume, then that's a good mix, because you can get fooled. When you're listening to stuff on a big, huge system with subwoofer and this and that, it's cranked up loud. Of course it sounds great. It sounds phenomenal. But what does it sound like when you're listening to the little mono speaker on a television set? How does it sound there? How does it sound when you're listening to it on your freaking, nowadays, on your iPhone?
Right.
Or when you're listening to it in your car stereo, driving down the road, driving down I-95 with the windows down.
Right.
Can I still hear, So those little things are crucial.
Yeah, that's pretty helpful.
Crucial observations.
So you did, and then you just drove back here after a certain point in time?
Yeah, I basically, after about 2 years out there, another thing that happened right before I moved out there, I recorded a demo just for fun with these metal guys that I had been playing with in Malevolent Creation. I did one album with those guys. I don't know if you heard of Malevolent Creation. They're still around. They're still putting out albums. I've been doing so since like probably 90. I think their first album came out in 90.
That's a very metal name, though. Malevolent Creation. So
a couple of us that recorded on that album got together and formed this little project called Divine Empire, which turned into a band. We wound up putting out 5 albums. But before I moved to LA, we recorded a little demo in my living room. And the last thing I packed up before moving out there literally was my little 8-track recording machine. And so I move out there. 3 months later, after I'm out there, the bass player's calling me. He's like, "Oh man, I've been sending that demo out, and I've got a couple, some interest from a couple record labels and stuff like that." And this Olympic Records out of Chicago, which was a subsidiary of Century Media Records, they want to sign us and put out the album. So, okay, cool. I'll fly back and record the album with you guys. And then next thing you know, it's like, oh, now we got a tour book. So I'm like, okay. So it's crazy because I moved out to LA to try to pursue the music. And 3 months after I'm out there, you
got a record deal back east.
And a record deal back east with Divine Empire, which I totally was not expecting. And that was kind of like the last place my head was at. I was like, okay, I'm ready to full on to dive into, blues and jazz and learning the guitar and really trying to learn the instrument so I can communicate musically with people, and all this stuff. And so I wound up, flying back here, recording the album. Then we did a tour, and then another tour popped up. So I would okay, I'm rent out my room in my apartment for a couple months while I fly back to Florida to go work with these guys and do this tour. So after about 5 times of doing that, I said, okay, I got to do something here. And I missed my friends here in Florida. I missed my family. All my family was down here. So I wound up making the move and, coming back to Florida after about 2 years of living out there.
Well, it's good that you did that, though. At least you got to try.
Oh, yeah.
And,
Man, it was those 2 years were a growing experience. I mean, it was hands down probably one of the most, growing and learning spurts of my life was that 2 years living out there and just trying to, like I said, absorbing everything I could from any musician that I would come across that I thought I could learn something from them, and it totally was.
Did you meet any guys out there that you're still buddies with?
Let's see. No, not necessarily. No,
yeah.
No. I mean, I'm still friends with my buddies in Puglia who I was out there and stuff with, but no.
None of the guys that you
I did, wind up keeping in contact with some guys, but over the past, I don't know, 5 or 6 years, I lost contact with those folks.
Sure.
Yeah.
Tough question, JP. What do you like most about yourself?
That is a tough question. Well, I like the fact that I can constantly. I'm aware of my strengths and weaknesses, I guess you could say. Being self-aware.
Yeah, that's so important.
And being humble. I think. That's kind of an oxymoron. What do you like about yourself?
Yeah, I'm humble.
That I'm humble.
No, I get it though. But you're responding to a question, so it's.
Yeah.
I get it. It's funny, man. This thing about awareness, man. I think it's the biggest problem that people have. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I'm just driving my car and people are either texting or I'm in a mall and they're just walking, totally oblivious that there's cars and it's just like, I'm like, I want to shake them and not in a nice way, just say, hey man, you gotta pay attention to shit going on.
When their kids running around and freaking their ladies she's sitting there on her phone and her kid's getting ready to run across the street.
Yes. Perfect. Right. Perfect. And I just want to tell people hey, and it's none of my business, so I don't say a word, but I don't know where people's heads are at, man.
I know.
Nobody's present, man. I don't know what they're thinking about.
I'll do it. Sometimes when I'm sitting at a stoplight or whatever, I'll just, or as I'm pulling up to a stoplight, I'll look over and I'll just count the number of people that are on their phones, and quite often it's 75% of the people are looking down on their phone. Or when I see somebody kind of it looks like they're driving and they're drunk and
on
they're
I-95
going up to the side or something, or they're driving a little slow, and I go, I guarantee you that person's on their phone. I pull up beside them, and sure enough, they're on their phone. And
that's scary, man.
I honk the horn and I grab my phone and I shake it at them like, hey.
Yeah.
because it drives me. It makes me
Well, it's
furious.
just scare. Man, I saw this
It's
program.
dangerous, man.
It is dangerous. I saw this.
It's worse than freaking drunk driving.
I saw this program on, I think, Netflix. It was just about this, and it had 3 or 4 situations where young people got just terrible. And after that, man, I changed my setting on my phone that I can't get any text. It says, sorry, I don't even know. It's not, I didn't program it. It's just a setting on there. It's just a sorry, I can't. Yeah, because it's, and even my kids will text me and I can't get it. I don't want to, be tempted, man. I just let it go.
It is
listen to music.
Sometimes I'll find myself,
it's natural,
being guilty. It is. And it's the society we're in now, man. It's for as much benefits as there is with it, I think there's also, it's great connecting people and everything and all that, but it's also, there's a disconnect with it as well, because people aren't learning social skills. I mean, my girlfriend, her son, he's 24 years old. He doesn't go play with friends. He doesn't go, out, hang out with his friends. He hangs out with his friends on the computer. Yeah. And I know that's normal and that's the way it is now. But to me, I still find it like, it's weird to me.
Well, you don't learn social skills, like you said. Like you don't get the benefit of, and we all do, saying something stupid and having 3-4 people saying, hey man, you sound like an asshole. And then you learn, okay, not a good move. Let me check myself. Then let me think about, why was it an asshole? I was hurt someone's feelings. I didn't mean, but that's how you get corrected, man. No one does that on a phone. They don't give a shit,
No, I know. And the things that, I see it on the Facebook, that these people, ripping each other apart.
Oh yeah. That's
comments and stuff, and these are, these are older folks.
There's
these
adults,
are people that are like retired, senior citizens and shit. And I'm like you would never say that to somebody if you were
face
standing
to face.
Yeah, you would never say that to somebody, but because you're, hide behind your little thing and, I try to stay out of the whole political, any sort of thing like that on Facebook, religion, political stuff, relationship stuff. I stay away from all that
I'm the same.
Facebook.
I'm the same, man.
I don't want to get in.
No, it's too negative, man. I haven't even watched news in about 35 years. Literally no news. Haven't read a newspaper. I mean, I know I'm probably a little more ignorant, but I'm good with that because I don't have to know shit in my
Same
life.
Here. Out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I don't want to think of anything. That's shit.
I know.
Hey, do you have any hobbies outside of music?
I do. I mean, I go to the beach a lot, and I like collecting shark teeth. I go where I live here off of Palmetto Park. I go to the Palmetto Park Road Beach here, Pavilion. Sure. I go there, and that's one thing I like to do is collect. Walk there and search for the shark teeth, and it's exciting when you find one. It's this moment of excitement, and also, a few years back, I started getting into model trains.
Oh, cool.
I had an uncle that when we were kids that was really into them and stuff, and he's the one that kind of got me into it. And he passed away a few years ago, and when he did, he had always talked about building this this layout and stuff he was going to build. We never did get to do it. So when he passed away, I started kind of getting into it, and I said, I'm gonna build one of these things. So I kind of do that. I haven't worked on it in a little while, but that's like one little hobby that I have.
That's nice.
Other than that, pretty much it. That's pretty much it.
What's your favorite place you travel? Because I know you've been all over.
As far as like going over to Europe and stuff, I like the Netherlands. I really like the Netherlands.
Why is that?
Just the vibe of the people, I guess, and just the energy of it. There's something about it that I connect with and feel more comfortable and stuff with. Yeah, I dig it. I mean, I like a lot of places over there, but that one,
Netherlands,
it kind of stands out, and as far as like in the States, I mean, New Orleans. I think New Orleans is probably my favorite city for music. For music and just the realness of it and the grittiness of it, and
Is that where you met Eric Johansson? I mean, yeah.
No, actually, I met him through Tab,
Through Tab,
because he was he's Tab's road manager for a while. So that's why I first met Eric on one of the blues cruises, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And then he and I really got to connect back in December. I went and did a 5-day run with Tab. I think that's right around the time that he hooked us up together.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so Eric and I had some good conversations on
nice
that.
guy, really nice guy.
Oh, super nice, man. And a great musician too.
Yeah. Plays a resonator like something else, man.
Yeah.
It's funny, the Netherlands, I there's some great music out in that whole area of Europe. I had a guy, actually one of my favorite guitar players, a guy named Ron Van Herpen, from the Netherlands, and he's in a band called Astrosonic. He's in a few bands, but that's his main band. And
I like that name.
Yeah, Astrosonic, SONIQ, and just a good guy. I remember him telling me they were in the States one time, and he loved barbecue because they don't have. Yeah, and it was like there's certain foods.
Now,
yeah,
you know what else they don't have over there? Mexican food.
Yeah,
I've never seen a Mexican restaurant in Europe. I said to myself, man, somebody came over here and opened up a Taco Bell.
They'd be killing it.
Yeah, when I have some friends from Frankfurt, they used to come over a lot, back in the day, this is like 20 years ago, but they would come over on vacation. First thing they'd want to do is go to Taco Bell.
You're kidding me.
Oh yeah, that's the first thing they'd want to do. And let's go to Taco Bell. We love it so much.
That's funny, man.
Yeah, because they don't have it over there. They don't have that Mexican food. That's another thing I realized too. Like going over there and traveling and stuff. Like they probably the guy that would bring us over, this little German guy, Ray Bodenstein, right? And he'd be like, I'm going to take you to they got the best espresso at this place, or I'm going to take you to this, Italian restaurant. It's the best, I go, and I would tell him like, yeah, this is pretty good, dude. But I go, yeah, I understand where I live, in the States, over here. I go, within a 5-mile radius of my house, I'm like, I can get Mexican, some of the best Mexican food I ever had, Chinese food, Italian food, Indian food, just anything I want, and that's definitely, when you go to those places, you realize that, some of the conveniences that we have over here and stuff.
Oh, and the ease of going into business.
Oh yeah.
It's not easy there. You need all sorts of permits, permissions, and then there's like a societal thing where will they accept you as this? Nobody thinks about that stuff here. Yeah. So there's things that we, don't know until you go over other places, as you said.
Oh yeah. Stuff you take for granted,
Yes.
And then you go, wow, okay. Yeah.
2 more questions, JP.
Sure.
Toughest decision you've had to make, or most difficult thing you had to do?
Okay. Back in, I think it was when I was getting ready to release my Full Moon Night in Memphis CD. We had prior to releasing that CD, that was my 3rd CD. Prior to releasing that, we had recorded that Southern Hospitality CD I was telling you about, and that got released on Blind Pig Records.
Mm-hmm. And
when I had recorded the Full Moon Night in Memphis CD, I had gotten an offer from Blind Pig to release it. They wanted to put it out, and I was going round and round trying to figure out, should I release it, but should I put it out through their label, or should I go ahead and continue put it out myself like I've been doing? And I literally was losing sleep over it, stressing myself out over it. And I would contact, ask advice of friends like Jimmy Thackeray, for instance. He was, he put out several albums on Blind Pig. I would ask his advice. I would ask, several other musician friends and people's advice, and that was one of the hardest, toughest decisions was that, and I decided to go ahead and put it out myself.
Good for you, man.
And thank God.
What was the deciding factor? Sorry, what was the deciding factor?
Well, I weighed out all the pros and cons of it, and I looked at other artists that were on there, and I said, oh man, I'm doing better myself. I'm playing more festivals and stuff like this, and have more of a presence than some of these artists that are on Blind Pig. So that was one of the things. And it was many things. It wasn't one of the,
Good for
certain thing,
you.
but just weighing out the pros and cons and going, okay, do I want to pay, $6 a CD from them if I put this CD that's already recorded out on their label, or do I want to pay,
$1.98.
exactly, pay $1,200 for 1,000 of them delivered to my doorstep? And what are the, is it really going to boost? Granted, the only thing I could come up with, one of the main benefits of that, if I would have signed the deal with them, was the fact that, okay, now I can tote myself as a Blind Pig recording artist. I'm on a record label. But as we know, record labels, especially in that capacity, are becoming less and less relevant and less, nowadays with technology. That's definitely one of the benefits of it is, is being able to connect with people. And when someone says, oh, well, we got great distribution. I said, where?
Yeah. Define that.
Where you mean? You mean I can walk into Walmart and find it on the record shelves? Oh, they don't sell records anymore. I can walk into Tower Records and see it. Oh, there are no longer Tower Records. So when someone talks about distribution, to me, that's like,
yeah, you got to be specific. What does that mean?
What do you mean distribute? I mean, I can fart in a tin can and record it and put it on iTunes and Spotify, and it's available to the world
everywhere.
Like that. Exactly.
Yeah.
So that was one of the things, and I'm glad that I decided against that, because a year and a half later, that label is no longer
fell apart.
Yeah, exactly. Blind Pig Records is no longer in existence.
Yeah.
So I was like,
good for you,
right
man.
decision.
Yeah, for sure. And JP, you don't know this, but his next recording will be farting in a tin can and putting it on.
That's right.
I'll be the guest farter. Last question, man. And thank you very much for your time and everything.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it, man. It's been real nice talking to you, man.
Thank you as well.
Biggest change in your personality over the last 10 years, and how much of that change has been intentional and how much is just a natural part of aging?
Well, I think it's the older I get, the more I realize that my happiness comes from within. It's not something, oh, if I just get this guitar, I'm going to be happy. Yeah, for a little while. Or if I can just accomplish this, I'm going to be happy for a little while. It's something that comes from within. And I realized like when I was younger, I was always trying to feel like chase something to fit in, or people to accept me and this and that, or trying to, I need to have this, or I need to have that, or, as I've gotten older, I realized that all those things that I, felt were weird about me or something, or like not necessarily the norm or something with me, that all those things make me who I am. And those are what builds character, and those are what makes you, what you're different. And I realized that everybody has something, that they can do well, and you just have to find that and do that if you can. Everyone has something that's unique to them, that's special about them, and if you can find that and tap into that, then it can be really, really awesome.
Well, thank you, brother, because you have definitely found what you do well at. You're a great musician, guitar player, singer, and songwriter, man. So please keep doing that, man.
Thank you, man.
Let me tell everybody what JP's got going on. First of all, please check out JP's music. It's JP Soars, SOARS, and go to his website and sign in and get on his email list, so this way you can be a part of his world and let you know what's going on. His last album is called Let Go of the Reins. It is a great record. You want to just start on a few songs, check out Freddie King Thing, Lonely Fire, Old Silver Bridge, but they're all good, man. It's a really well done album. He's got a hell of a voice, and he's a really great player, man. It's nice to hear like original blues. He's got a great tone, and it's just a pleasure listening to him. He's got a lot of videos online too. Definitely check out Something Ain't Right. That video is very powerful. You can find JP on Facebook at JP Soars official band page, and on Instagram and Twitter at some version of JP Soars. You'll find him on there.
Yeah.
And anything else you want to talk about or promote?
Not really. No, just I'm very happy that you had me, and
It's my pleasure,
thanks so
man.
much. Yeah,
Thank you.
Really a pleasure talking to you, Greg. Definitely.
Likewise. Hang on one second. Let me wrap up. Everybody, thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this, please share it on your social media channels. Please, first of all, thanks very much to JP Soars. Thank you, brother. And everybody, check out and support JP's music. Great blues musician and a great blues artist, and really has a very good, substantial catalog behind him as well. And where are you? When are you touring? Where are you touring? I know you're touring in Brazil soon. Talk about some of your tours.
Well, actually, we're going down next month. We're going to do a festival down in Panama.
Panama, right?
Yeah, which is I've never been down there, so that's going to be awesome. And in April, we're doing like a northeast run up to like upstate New York area. We got some Midwest stuff in that run as well. So yeah, April's the next time we're really going out full fledged and getting in the van and spending a few weeks in the van.
Awesome.
And, yeah.
You be down here, you think, this year?
Oh yeah. Oh
Great.
Yep.
Well, I'll be watching for you, and we'll connect when you come down.
All right, Craig.
And so support JP and his music, and enjoy it. And most important, you'll dig this. Most important, remember that happiness is a choice, so choose wisely. Be nice, go play your guitar, and have fun. Till next time, peace and love, everybody. I'm out. JP, thank you so much, brother.
You're welcome. Thank you, brother.